Every JoJo part differs a lot when it comes to the endings. Each JoJo part has an ending thematically structured to represent everything that happened throughout the story of that set part. When it comes to part 1 and part 2 and part 3, it's a very similar kind of ending. There is a plot twist that goes underway without breaking the whole narrative of the part. Part 1 has probably the most straightforward JoJo ending out of every part, and every single JoJo part in my opinion has a solid ending. It just takes a lot of using to it. Everything is amazing when you create a story based on some characters which represent it in a way that the ending cannot go wrong, essentially because you have progressed that story into a finale that the chapters led throughout the characters' emotions, feelings, and backstory. So it's not something numb, it's not something that it means absolutely nothing. So no JoJo ending really is bad. There are some plot twists out of nowhere into the beginnings of JoJo endings which are sometimes emotional, all the times funny, but later on the plot twists start to dial down and the ending is very straightforward and heartfelt. Like the ending of part 4, it's not something essentially to be happy about because in a way it's left a lot behind, but it is the most lighthearted JoJo ending by far. Then when we watch the other JoJo endings from other parts, it's just nostalgic in a way. When Araki started going very crazy with the ending of JoJo part 6, then everything turned around to be more sentimental because part 7 hasn't really been recovering the same from an ending that it's supposed to be. Part 7 has an ending very different from what JoJo endings were so far. Part 7 has an ending which really doesn't mean everything just for the characters. It has one of the best endings I have ever seen, and funny enough Araki continued to do that with the other seinen part, JoJolion. JoJolion's has just recently ended, and it is an absolute pleasure as a JoJo fan to see a JoJo part end in my lifetime. It is literally something unimaginable. I never thought I'd get here. I wasn't there when Steel Ball Run ended. Surprisingly enough, I wasn't there for any of the other parts ending. Anime parts don't count, obviously, because they don't really end at the time they end. They obviously were a manga at the time when they were actually ending, and I don't believe that most JoJo fans nowadays are that old of a JoJo fan to know that. JoJo got popular in the West recently, so JoJolion's ending was really experienced by the masses of JoJo fans here in the Western world happily. JoJolion has a good ending in my opinion. It doesn't really have a crazy ending like you expect it to be, but trust me when I say this, it is a very good ending. I really thought about this. It isn't an ending which makes me angry for following the series for so many years. It is honestly an ending that makes me happy for being a fan of JoJo. JoJolion as a whole is a part which can be described in one simple word. Characters mean more than the story. And I honestly believe that. I don't believe there is a single JoJo part that embodies that saying more. And JoJolion's ending absolutely embodies what I just said about JoJolion. There is something about JoJolion's ending which I don't really think that it needs to be said or pointed out for people to understand what I mean about that saying. Let's get into more spoiler stuff. Josuke Higashikata was a character that we were happy for him. If we take the complex viewpoint that series have for characters like Josuke Higashikata, then obviously he's important for his character would be his goal to find out his memories. But in essence, Araki swift that. He basically said that I don't want this character to be just a naive point of what they see for him. I want this character to be more. He created all these emotional points throughout the JoJo part, which to Araki they meant a lot, but to Josuke they meant even more, because in the end he doesn't really care about the past or the future. He lives in the present, and that is absolutely beautiful to see. A character like that who defines himself and doesn't want to be put in a box. His older self does not exist to him. All he knows is what all he is. It's beautiful. All the cast of JoJolion perfectly embodies what that means. And then we move on to the villainish side. JoJolion has some great stand-up protagonists to fight some great villain of the week. But JoJolion had this problem for a while. They didn't have a final villain, not a face to be looking at. When I remember Steel Ball Run, when there was the Funny Valentine image and his persona from the early chapters, we knew that this guy is gonna be the final boss. and it was absolutely incredible to see. Same happened with JoJo Part 1, same happened with JoJo Part 2, same happened with JoJo Part 3, the same happened with JoJo Part 4 but a little bit later, the same happened with JoJo Part 5, we always had the idea of the boss, same happened with JoJo Part 6, also a bit later, same as JoJo Part 4, then JoJo Part 7 we knew the villain from the first few chapters of the series, and it is incredible to know that the progression that JoJolion has, in a way we knew what is going to happen in the end without really knowing who is the face to represent it, and that is beautiful in my opinion. The character of Toru in the end doesn't end up being just a one-hit character when he has one fight and he goes, and I promise you this, a lot of people are gonna view him like that because that is how we teach our brain to think about these kind of characters, and I understand, I don't have a problem with that, but Toru is a character which represents a lot of more to JoJolion. He is a character which in his way, his point and his ideas and his importance was throughout the entirety of the villainous side in JoJolion, and his appearance in the end is just to embody that, to put a face into this idea. The whole rock human, the beautiful perspective that we get from it, the small relationship that we create, and in the end it is something more, because all these monologues that are created throughout the ending of JoJolion to me don't really represent just a one-hit wonder character. They don't really represent a character which I don't really feel connected to. They to me represent a character which Araki is trying to portray a force of nature with him, something that he's trying to portray the daily life of occurrences, competition and reality. And in my opinion it doesn't really reflect the whole of JoJolion the way I wanted it to, but reflects the whole of JoJolion it is supposed to, and that is the type of ending I really seek out, and I never really got connected to that kind of ending in any other JoJo part, and I never thought a series like JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, a series known to be whack, to know meme-ish, to create such an ending, because I believe it is very serious and it is very different compared to what I've seen of JoJo. Obviously JoJo has a fandom which is known to be very connected to the character. Give it time and everything will be fine. I guess every character gets his time and his spotlight when the anime comes along, but with JoJolion we have to wait a lot for the anime. I hope Toru gets a representation enough in the community to be liked, because I honestly think that he is more than just a final villain, because sure, a lot of people are gonna say that he's one of the weakest ones compared to, of course, the big boys, but I believe knowing his importance throughout the story will put him at least way upper than some of the other villains in JoJo. Compared to other JoJo parts, JoJolion's ending was magnificent. I honestly believe it is in the top 4, maybe top 3 JoJo endings in a whole, and it will be a good JoJo ending in a few years. It will really be aging with time beautifully. I honestly believe that. I think it has the potential to age beautifully. It's not a JoJo ending which I don't really understand. It's not a JoJo ending that I don't really want to go back to. It is a JoJo ending which I just feel complete with it. Compared to the early parts which have more simpler endings, and compared to the later part which have very complex reflections of the entire part, JoJolion represents both of them. It is something in the middle. It is something absolute concrete. It is something you cannot say no to. Reread JoJolion's ending. I promise you will get a new view into it. Read some of the last chapters, like the last 20 chapters are together, and hopefully when the anime comes along, people are going to cry at this ending. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed. If you liked the video, drop a like, and if you are willing to help me and these videos be possible in the future, subscribe, comment your thoughts. What do you think JoJolion's ending means to the whole of JoJo, and do you think that it's one of the best endings compared to the other JoJo parts? Until my next video, adinplore out.